All right, everyone. So tip number one is when you're driving next to trees like this, see it's a pretty kind of bushy tree. I can be relatively close with my truck, but you got to be careful because if you look, we can see the top of the camper there. I got to make a little bit of a left-hand turn here, and the trailer is going to start getting real close to that tree. See that those branches right there? So even though my truck is miles away, I actually got to straighten out my truck significantly in order to make sure the trailer doesn't swipe the tree. Two, you're going to want to do a few things. First of all, just double check and make sure that your tongue is as high as it'll possibly, or your jack is as high as it'll possibly go. And as you can see, my brake cable was hanging a little bit lower, so we'll just kind of stuff that over here. Just, you know, we're going to be, with the terrain that we're on, we're going to be close to stuff, so we just want to make sure we don't rip anything off. Then you got to keep in mind, right, your jacks, your rear jacks hang a little bit lower, so you want to make sure you don't rip those off, just because that'll cost you money and time to fix, and that sucks. So the biggest thing, I would say, is all of your overhead branches and stuff like that, you want to make sure they're as clear as possible. So for example, as I'm walking over here, it looks like this little limb fell. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but it fell to a point where I can actually reach it, which means it'll be well under the trailer's clearances. Now what I had done, and a good way to do this, is take a pole that's, you know, you can hold in your hands as high as your trailer's roof, and just hold that pole up and go walk around your whole trail to make sure that you can get the trailer wherever you're going without scraping anything. Additionally, we can see that this little tree fell here, so we'll get this kind of crap out of the way just to keep it from getting bound up and underneath the trailer, ripping hoses and wires and all that kind of crap. And again, just makes you get to your camping spot and then have to start doing repairs on your trailer, which is no fun. Now if we keep walking through the trail, I'm always looking for terrain. You can see it's a little bit wavy, but nothing that's gonna like tip the trailer over or anything. There's no major rocks that are gonna put a ton of stress on the tires and axles when I'm trying to back in here. You can see it's a little bit soft here, just a little bit of mud, but you know, nothing that's gonna get the truck or the trailer stuck really. And again, I'm still checking for overhead stuff. I've already done this, so I'm not looking too closely here. Another thing, just crap like this, random logs, get those out of the way. Something like this root, obviously you really can't do much about it, but you know, it's gonna take a decent amount of force from the truck to get the trailer up over that. It shouldn't hurt anything, just don't ram into it and you'll be fine. So going through here, we got a little bit of a rock there, no big deal, we'll center punch that anyway. And then this is kind of the spot where I like to put the trailer. This down tree over here is well beyond where it's gonna sit, so I'll just leave it. And yeah, I mean, we're in good shape. So basically it's just a matter of walking the area that you're actually going to back the trailer in first, just because when you're backing up, you obviously can't see a whole lot. If you have a rear camera on your trailer, even better. If you have a camera on your truck, even better. I got an 05 truck and I don't have a camera on the trailer, so you know, just a matter of being a little more diligent. Get out and walk it first, make sure that you're not doing anything you know, that's going to be beyond the trailer and the truck's capabilities, and you should be totally fine. Now, as far as lining this up, it might be a little hard to tell on camera, but I kind of have to back it in and then turn it to get onto this trail. As you can see, my angle right now is terrible. I just kind of put the trailer there for now. So what I'll do is straighten that all back out, and I want to hug this tall grass, and then I want to basically hug this tree so that I can get the trailer in as straight as I can to make the turn onto this trail as gradual as possible. That's what I did last time. It seemed to work pretty good, so we'll give it a shot. The thing you're going to want to do is make sure you put your tow vehicle in 4x4 low. Now, on a lot of newer trucks that have 8 and 10 speed transmissions and a bunch of power, you won't necessarily need to, and I frankly probably don't even need to on this, but it's just so much easier on your drivetrain because you're not slipping the crap out of your torque converter and putting a lot of extra stress into the transmission. You're just kind of right off idle, able to move the trailer, and then just, you know, let the truck do what it was made to do, right? So I would highly recommend using 4 low for stuff like this. I don't have a spotter. I just stop every 10-20 feet. Not the most glamorous way to do it, but just to make sure nothing's going crazy. So you can see I got plenty of room on this side. I'll go ahead, I'll look up. I'm getting a little bit close to those branches, but I should more or less clear them, so I'm not too worried there. And then you can see we got a ton of room over here. If I keep going straight, I'm not gonna hit any trees or any crazy terrain. I won't always watch trees that go like this, right? Because you can think you have a ton of room by the bottom of the trailer, but then the roof will hit it. So I'm still going to be clear of that. I'll watch it in my mirror as well. What I want to watch out for one, we're in a good spot. We're actually at a high spot or a low spot of the ground, so the trailer's nice and high. So that's cool. But if you look, so my truck is on this high spot, and if you look at the angles, right, the trailer's leaning fairly far over. Now, it's not even remotely close to tipping over, but just make sure you're watching in your rear view mirror to make sure the trailer's not getting at too much of an angle, because the center of gravity on these is relatively high. So the last thing you want to do is tip your trailer over. That wouldn't be very much fun. So you can see, absolutely not an issue where it's at right now, but just something to monitor and something that I can look for, right? Might be hard to tell on camera, but I'm at the top of a little bump in the trail here. So I'm about to start coming back down it. So I know if the trailer didn't flip here, of course, it won't flip coming back down the bump. So no problem. And if you look, we're just barely clear with the branches up there. That's no mistake. I went ahead and cut all these earlier, so good. And then if we also look here, we got a really good angle. So I got a ton of room on this side to start making this turn. And then I'm a little bit tight over here. So what I'm going to do is just make sure that I get this trailer over to the left as much as possible so that I have room with the truck to swing out and make the turn. So I might have to reposition one more time, but we'll see. This driving technique will go against every single driving handbook you've ever read, but it's great for doing off-road stuff like this. So what you want to do is just lightly rest your foot on the brake, just enough that your trailer and truck won't move, and then just add a little gas, let off the brake slightly if you need to. But when you're in low range, you can easily move the truck through the brake, and you don't add that much resistance to the drivetrain or anything. And what that does is it makes it super controllable, because your foot's always dragging the brake, and the second you need to stop, you can just ease off the gas and just put a little bit more brake on it, and you wind up with a super smooth movement. And it's actually a lot better on the truck's drivetrain because you're not shocking it with the truck rolling forward and backward and trying to get the trailer to move. Now, if you notice, I expertly missed that stump. I'm gonna make believe that I did that on purpose. And if we look, still have a ton of room over here. I'm hugging these shrubs the best I can. And I just need to really start cranking the trailer around, and it should come right down this trail. We got room up top for days, so we're getting through the hardest part. This is really, on this trail, the hardest part. It doesn't look too bad because it's pretty wide, but it's just, you gotta be careful because of the limbs on the trees and stuff. And I don't want to scratch everything up, right? So you just got to kind of thread the needle a little bit. All right, I'll just give you a little demonstration here. I just went back to 4 high. I'm kind of uphill right now. The trailer's in a little bit of a weird spot. I want to show you how much more stress it puts on the transmission, and especially the torque converter. So, I mean, it moves it no problem, but listen to the truck rev up, right? Now, if we go back to 4 low, okay, do the same thing, right? I'm just gonna let off the brake. Put a tiny bit of gas in it. See how easy that was? 900 RPM and the truck starts pushing the trailer back. So you can see why it's so important, at least in my opinion, to throw it in 4 low when you're doing stuff like this. It just makes it so much easier on your truck. And that's a wrap, folks. We got this beast in here. Now, the last thing you want to do, this is the same as any campsite, but especially when you're in the woods like this, just make sure that your awning will still open, which this should be okay. We're far enough away from this tree. And of course, as normal, just make sure your slide will open. So we're good there. And then one thing to kind of consider, because see how we're kind of backed against this tree? Now we're not super close to it, so it's fine. But if you ever get center punch a tree, just try to make sure you can get out of that fire escape. Just because, I don't know, worst case scenario, it probably wouldn't hurt to not die in your camper. So anyway, that's where we're at. You can see we're on pretty unlevel ground overall. Another trick that I like to do is, if you notice, right, the back tire is a lot lower than the front tire, but I needed to raise the side of the trailer up. So I probably could have actually put nothing under that side, but instead of doing 2 and 2, I just did 2 here and 1 there. And you can see the axle's relatively centered, you know, close enough. It's gonna be here for a night or 2, so no big deal. Yeah, it probably would have been better to do none there and maybe even do 3 here and just kind of help center the axles a little bit. Not that it matters too much, but it would theoretically just give you maybe a little bit more stable, you know, experience inside the camper. But anyway, the only issue I'm now foreseeing is, see that rock right there? Oh, look at that. The stairs fold right around it. Plus the nose has got to come up anyway. So, all right, guys, until next time.